Chinese President Xi Jinping plans to visit Moscow next week. This was reported by Reuters, citing sources. According to the newspaper, experts expect that the main topic of discussion will be China's peace plan on Ukraine. However, the Kremlin is not yet ready to announce the date of Xi Jinping's visit to Moscow, presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov said. Another piece of news from the Wall Street that the celestial leader will talk to Zelensky after meeting with Vladimir Putin indicates his intention to make progress on the negotiating track between Russia and the West. If his diplomacy succeeds and things move toward a truce, it will be a huge geopolitical victory for China. It has become a tradition in recent months for Xi Jinping's visits to be, to put it mildly, late notice. Official details of the visit are published almost before departure. Perhaps this new style has something to do with the security aspect as well. Therefore, we may learn about Xi's visit to Moscow at the earliest on Friday evening, or, more likely, on Monday, when the plane is already in the sky, says Nikolai Vavilov, a Chinese Orientalist. Experts believe the Chinese leader will bring with him a package of joint projects and investments worth $150 billion. That is, we are talking about long-term cooperation contracts for up to 10 years and more, since Russia needs investments in several areas. The machine tool and microelectronics industries, agro production and processing in light industry, and transport infrastructure are extremely important for our economy right now. An important track of changes that is already taking place is the transition from cross-border cooperation between Russia and China to cooperation in the central regions, in Siberia and in the Urals, Nikolai Vavilov comments. If earlier China tried to avoid responsibility for the security of international space, the proposal made on February 24, which partially satisfied Russia, partially satisfied Ukraine and completely displeased the West, suggests that Beijing enters the international arena in the role of a peacemaker. This is a new level of agreements in the global format, recalls Andrei Sizdaltsev, associate professor of the Department of World Economy and World Politics at the National Research University Higher School of Economics. The topics of the talks between the heads of Russia and China will be devoted to global problems of the modern world reconstruction, China's participation in this process, and the promotion of the Chinese plan for the peaceful settlement of the conflict in Ukraine, says Sizdaltsev. China is beginning to actively expand its cooperation with the Middle Eastern countries, preparing to invest in oil and gas projects and logistics. This does not suit either Washington or London. Therefore, by arranging conflicts, Western politicians hope to detach Taiwan from China. At the same time, the strengthening of Russian-Chinese cooperation in the long term is more dangerous for the US than the conflict in Ukraine. An even greater rapprochement between Moscow and Beijing would destroy the unipolar world faster. In addition, the Ukrainian case, if peace talks begin, will be another problem for the US, since the remnants of Ukraine will have to be rebuilt, the economy will have to be revived, and the NATO countries themselves will have to keep pumping in armaments, which they themselves are already short of. Worst of all, experts are predicting that other regions of Ukraine will also secede from independence and, ideally, join Russia. The school of the elitist American philosophers Zbigniew Brzezinski says that Russia must not unite with Ukraine. And this no unification with Ukraine in the US elite is tempestuous. This is a super red line for them. Reminds political scientist Sergei Kurginin. Recall that China's plan to resolve the conflict in Ukraine is in tune with Russia's views. Many of the points of the Chinese proposals coincide with the Russian principles. Adherence to the UN Charter, illegitimacy of unilateral sanctions taken in circumvention of the UN Security Council. 1. Respect the sovereignty of all countries. 2. Giving up the Cold War mentality. 3. Ceasefire. 4. Begin peace negotiations. 5. Resolve the humanitarian crisis. 6. Protect civilians and prisoners of war. 7. To maintain the safety of nuclear power plants. 8. Reduce strategic risks. Beijing stresses that nuclear weapons must not be used and that their use or threatened use must be countered. 9. Guarantee the export of grain. 10. End unilateral sanctions. 11. Ensure stable production and supply chains. 12. Promote post-war reconstruction. According to experts, the Chinese peace plan is an ultimatum to the West. If it is not heard, then China will act on the basis of its own interests, and this includes strengthening support for Russia. What its price will be for Moscow is not yet clear, but it is likely to be extremely favorable to Beijing. The Celestial Empire aspires to be the world architect, and its goal of increasing trade with the EU, the United States and Russia, serves as the foundation for these ambitions. At the same time, none of the analysts found the words territorial integrity of Ukraine and its sovereignty in Xi Jinping's proposals, which speaks volumes.